You check the forecast. High pressure, bluebird skies, water temperatures in the 30s. You sigh and say, well, I guess it is going to be a tough day. Sound familiar? We all do it. We use the weather as the ultimate excuse for a failed fishing trip. But what if I told you that the weather is just a convenient scapegoat? What if the real reason your rod is not bending has nothing to do with the sky and everything to do with what is happening at the end of your line? In this video, we are tearing down the biggest myth in winter fishing. Stay tuned, because the truth might just change the way you fish in the cold forever. So, let me ask you this. Are you really at the mercy of the January weather, or have you just been looking for an easy way out? For generations, we have passed down the rules of winter fishing. Fish are lethargic. They will not chase. You have to wait for a warming trend. It is comfortable wisdom, is it not? It gives us a reason why we fail, and it is a reason that is completely out of our control. This mindset makes us lazy. We show up, go through the motions with our typical winter baits, and when we get skunked, we just shrug and blame the cold front. We stop analyzing our performance, we stop adapting to the conditions, and we stop looking at the one variable we can actually control, ourselves. This video is about taking back that control. It is about realizing that fish still have to eat, no matter what the weatherman says. It is time to look past the forecast and into your own tackle box and your own tactics. First, let us talk about your line. Picture this. The water in January is often crystal clear, clearer than at any other time of the year. Yet, many anglers are still using the same thick, visible 10 or 12-pound monofilament or heavy braid they used in the summer. In these conditions, that line looks like a rope to a spooky, lethargic fish. You are essentially announcing your presentation from a mile away. The solution is downsizing to a lighter fluorocarbon line, maybe 6 or 8-pound test, which is nearly invisible underwater. This single change can be the difference between a fish inspecting your lure and a fish completely ignoring it. Stop thinking your line does not matter. In the winter, it might be the most important piece of the puzzle, and a heavy line is your first major mistake. Now let us move on to your lure. It is cold, so you tie on that tiny, subtle jig you have been told to use. But what if I told you that sometimes the problem is not that your lure is too big, but that its profile and action are completely wrong? A fish's metabolism is slow, yes, but it still needs to decide if chasing your lure is worth the energy. You might be throwing a 3-inch swim bait when the primary forage, like shad, are only 1.5 inches long. Or you are using a lure with a wide, aggressive wobble when a tight, subtle shimmy is what triggers a bite. Think about it from the fish's perspective. It sees a giant, weird-looking meal that does not match the hatch. It is an easy pass. The issue is not just size, but matching the exact profile and action of the local bait fish. Your lure might as well be a monster truck driving through a library. Let's talk about speed. This is probably the #1 sin of winter fishing. You're cold. You want to get warm. So you cast out and start retrieving at a pace that feels normal to you. But in 40-degree water, that normal pace is lightning fast to a fish. Imagine you are barely awake and someone throws a baseball at your head at 90 miles per hour. You would not even have time to react. That is what you are doing to the fish. You need to slow down. Then, when you think you are going slow enough, you need to slow down some more. We are talking painfully slow. A drag so slow you can barely feel the bait moving. A pause that lasts 10, 15, even 20 seconds. It is a mental battle against your own impatience. The weather is not making the fish ignore your bait. Your retrieve speed is making it impossible for them to catch it. Another huge mistake is waiting for a bite that is never going to happen. In the summer, a bass might slam a lure so hard it almost rips the rod out of your hands. We get conditioned to that aggressive thump. But in winter, that rarely happens. A winter bite can be incredibly subtle. It might feel like you just snagged a wet leaf. It might just be a mushy feeling, a slight tick in the line, or the line simply starting to move sideways when it should be sinking. If you are waiting for that classic hard thump, you are missing 90% of your bites. You have to become a line watcher. You have to be hyper-aware of any tiny abnormal sensation. The fish are biting. You just do not realize it because you are waiting for a signal they are not sending. The problem is not the fish's appetite. It is your perception of the bite. Think about where you are fishing. Are you going to the same points and weed beds that produced for you in June? This is a massive error. You are fishing summer memories, not winter reality. The fish are not there. In winter, fish often school up tightly and relate to very specific types of structure, usually in deeper, more stable water. They are looking for verticality, a sharp drop-off, a bluff wall, a deep channel swing. This allows them to move up and down in the water column to feed without expending much energy. Going to a shallow, flat bank because it was good 5 months ago is a complete waste of time. You need to erase your summer map from your brain and start thinking vertically. The fish have not vanished because of the weather. They have simply relocated to their winter homes, and you are not knocking on the right door. Many anglers see a cold, windy day and decide to stay home or hide in a calm cove. They see the wind as the enemy. This is a backward way of thinking. In the winter, the wind can be your absolute best friend. Wind creates current, even in a lake. It pushes plankton around, which attracts baitfish, and the baitfish, in turn, attract the predators you are trying to catch. A wind-blown bank or point is concentrating the entire food chain in one area. Yes, it is uncomfortable to fish in. Your boat control will be tested. But the fish in that area are often more active and less spooky because the choppy surface breaks up light penetration and hides your presence. Hiding from the wind is like ignoring a giant flashing sign that says, "Fish are here." The weather is not the problem. Your aversion to a little discomfort is. You look at a stretch of water on your graph, and it looks completely barren. No brush, no rocks, no obvious structure. You label it as dead water and speed right past it. But in the winter, some of the most productive spots can look like nothing. Fish, especially big ones, will often relate to incredibly subtle features. We are talking about a 1-foot change in depth, a slight change in bottom composition from sand to gravel, or a small patch of dying weeds that nobody else would even notice. These are the places where fish can ambush prey without being obvious. By only focusing on major textbook structures, you are driving right over massive schools of fish. You have to train your eyes to see the invisible. That dead water might just be the secret spot you have been looking for. The issue is not a lack of fish, but a lack of observation. Let's be honest, modern electronics are amazing, but they can also lie to you, or more accurately, you are misinterpreting what they are telling you. In winter, fish are often glued to the bottom. They are so tight to the lakebed that your fish finder, on default settings, might not even separate them from the bottom return. It just looks like a slightly thicker line. You see no classic arcs and assume there are no fish. You need to learn to fine-tune your electronics. Increase the sensitivity, adjust your color palette, and learn what a fish hugging the bottom actually looks like on your specific unit. Your graph might be screaming that there are fish everywhere, but you are reading the wrong language. Do not just trust the obvious signals. The weather did not make the fish disappear. Your sonar settings did. Sound travels incredibly well in cold, dense water. On the boat, you might be dropping pliers, slamming compartment lids, or running your trolling motor on high. On the ice, you might be stomping around and drilling holes like a madman. To the fish below, you sound like a herd of elephants having a party. In the quiet of winter, these noises are amplified and can spook fish from a surprisingly long distance. You need to adopt a stealth mindset. Every movement should be deliberate and quiet. Lay a towel down on your boat deck to muffle sounds. Use the trolling motor on a low, constant speed. instead of short, high-speed bursts. Your lack of noise discipline can shut down a school of fish before you ever make your first cast. The silence of the lake is a clue, not just a mood. This one might seem small, but it is huge. Think about everything you touch before you handle your lure. The gas pump handle, the coffee you spilled on your hands, the sandwich you ate for lunch, the sunscreen or bug spray from last season that is still on your jacket. All of those foreign scents transfer directly to your line and lure. A fish's sense of smell is thousands of times better than ours. When a lethargic fish finally decides to inspect your perfectly presented bait, it gets a whiff of gasoline or pepperoni and instantly rejects it. You will never even know you had a bite. Use scent-eliminating soaps. Apply fish attractant scents to your baits, not just to attract fish, but to mask your own human odor. You are not just fishing. You are conducting a scent control operation. Are you trying to paint a masterpiece with a paint roller? That is what it is like using a heavy power, fast-action base rod for winter finesse techniques. You are using a pool cue for a job that requires a surgeon's scalpel. That stiff rod will not allow you to properly cast light baits. It will not transmit those super subtle bites we talked about. And when you do get a fish on, you are more likely to rip the small hooks right out of its mouth. Winter fishing demands specialized equipment. A light or medium-light power rod with a slower, more parabolic action is essential. It acts as a shock absorber and helps you feel everything. If you are using your summer frog rod to throw a tiny Ned rig, you are setting yourself up for failure. It is not the weather. It is the wrong tool for the job. Those beautiful, sunny, bluebird sky days in January seem perfect for being on the water. But for the fish, it is like living under a giant interrogation lamp. The high sun and clear water create a spotlight on your mistakes. Your shadow passes over them. Your visible line flashes in the light. Your lure looks unnatural and fake. On these days, fish will often tuck into the deepest, darkest cover they can find. They will get under boat docks, into the heart of a deep brush pile, or on the shaded side of a bluff wall. If you are out there fishing in the open, you are in the wrong place. The sun is not just a weather condition, it is a structural element that dictates fish location. You need to fish the shadows. The fish are not inactive, they are just hiding from the spotlight. Successful winter fishing is a game of inches, a game of 1%ers. These are the tiny details that, by themselves, seem insignificant, but add up to make a huge difference. Things like checking your line for frays after every cast in rocky areas, making sure your hook point is perfectly sharp, not just sharp enough. Using a loop knot to give your small jig a bit more freedom of movement. Retying your knot every hour to ensure maximum strength. Most anglers ignore these details. They get lazy in the cold. But the one angler on the lake who is catching fish is the one who is obsessively managing these little things. It is the accumulation of these small efforts that turns a tough day into a successful one. The weather does not care about your details, but the fish certainly do. When I say structure, what do you think of? A submerged tree? A rock pile? A boat dock? Your definition is probably too narrow. In winter, fish relate to all sorts of things you might not consider structure. A thermocline, where two layers of water at different temperatures meet, is a form of structure. A mudline, where a creek is dumping slightly warmer, stained water into the main lake, is structure. Even a shadow line from a cliff is a form of structure. Fish will use these invisible edges just as they would a physical object. If you are only looking for physical visible cover on your map or your graph, you are missing the majority of the places where fish will hold. You have to expand your definition of what a spot is. The fish are not gone. They are just relating to structure you cannot see. Let's talk about the mental game. You wake up, see the forecast, and immediately think, this is going to be tough. You get to the ramp with a negative mindset. You have basically given up before you even make your first cast. This attitude affects everything you do. You fish faster. You do not pay as close attention. You give up on a spot after just a few casts. You are not fishing with confidence. You are just going through the motions, waiting to go home. The single biggest factor in winter fishing success is persistence and a positive mental attitude. You have to believe, truly believe, that your next cast will be the one. If you let the weather defeat you mentally before you even start, you have already lost. Your mindset is more powerful than any weather pattern. Most of us are creatures of habit. We fish from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon because that is what we always do. But in winter, the timing of your trip can be everything. Often, the best bite of the day happens in a very short window. It might be during the middle of the day from 11 to 2, when the sun is at its highest and has warmed the water by a single critical degree. Or, it could be the very last 30 minutes of daylight when bait fish become more active. By fishing a generic all-day schedule, you might be missing the peak feeding window entirely. You could have a miserable fishless 7 hours and then miss the 1 hour when they go on a feeding frenzy. It is not about fishing longer. It is about fishing smarter. The weather is not the problem. Your timing is. This may sound crazy, but one of the most effective techniques in winter is doing absolutely nothing. We call it dead sticking. You cast your lure out, a fluke, a stick bait, a jig, and you just let it sit on the bottom for a long, long time. We are talking 1 minute, 2 minutes, maybe even longer. You let the natural currents and the slight movements of your boat impart all the action. This requires an insane amount of patience. It feels wrong. It feels boring. But for a truly lethargic fish, a bait that is just sitting there, looking like a dead or dying meal, is an opportunity that is too easy to pass up. Your constant need to jiggle, twitch, and hop the bait is actually making it look unnatural and scaring the fish away. Sometimes, the most powerful tool in your arsenal is the ability to do nothing at all. Let us talk about lure color. Anglers are notoriously superstitious. We all have our confidence colors, but in the clear water of winter, your color choice should not be based on superstition. It should be based on science. You need to match the natural forage as closely as possible. If the crawfish are a dark brown with orange accents, your jig should be that exact color. If the shad have a translucent pearly sheen, your swim bait needs to have that same look. This often means using very plain, natural, and almost boring colors. Forget the fire tiger and chartreuse unless you are in stained water. Go to the water's edge, look at what lives there, and mimic it perfectly. The fish are not biting because they do not like your lucky color. They are not biting because it looks nothing like their dinner. You are so focused on catching the big fish, the bass, the walleye, the pike, that you completely forget about what they are eating. The entire winter ecosystem revolves around the food chain. Your number one job should be to find the bait fish. If you find the shad, you will find the bass. If you find the perch, you will find the walleye. Use your electronics to search for clouds of bait, not for individual big fish. Look for signs of life, like diving birds. A barren area with no bait is a dead zone, no matter how good the structure looks. Following the food is the oldest rule in the book, and it is more important in winter than at any other time of year. Stop hunting for the predators and start hunting for their prey. The weather does not dictate where the bait is. Their survival instincts do. Finally, the biggest problem might just be you. You are a creature of habit. You go to the same 3 spots, you use the same 2 lures, and you fish them the same way every single time you go out. You are stuck in a rut. Fishing, especially in winter, is about problem solving. It is about constant adaptation. If what you are doing is not working, you have to be willing to change everything. Move to a completely different part of the lake. Tie on a lure you have not used in years. fish a depth you normally ignore. The anglers who succeed in tough conditions are the ones who are constantly experimenting and refuse to be predictable. If you keep doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different result, the problem is not the weather. The problem is your refusal to change. So there you have it. 20 reasons why the problem is not the cold front, the high pressure, or the date on the calendar. The problem, and therefore the solution, is in your hands. The biggest aha moment in all of this is realizing that the weather does not stop the fish from feeding. It just changes the rules of the game. And for years, most of us have been playing by the wrong rulebook. By focusing on your line, your lure speed, your noise, and most importantly, your mindset, you stop being a victim of the conditions and start becoming a predator who uses them to your advantage. This is not just about catching more fish in January. It is about becoming a fundamentally better, more adaptable angler year-round. Thank you so much for watching. If this opened your eyes, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. Now, I really want to hear from you. What is the one weather excuse you are officially done using after watching this? Drop it in the comments below.